Drugs. When I heard we had this project, I immediately started looking up the most stupid wars in history, the stupidest wars in history. And unfortunately, it has to have been of historical impact. I am sorry, Lord Jenkins here. And I'm glad you can't hear this. In the end, I decided to look at the Opium Wars and how they affected China's relationship with the Western world and how they handled it, yada yada. But mostly because, according to military.com, it is one of the stupidest wars in history, with an amazing quote: "It was the worst trade deal in the history of trade deals. No wonder China is the way it is." My question is, how did China combat opium in the Opium Wars? And how did it impact its relationship with the Western world? Background. The First Opium War started in the late 1830s and early 1840s while the Qing dynasty was still in power. The British were exporting opium from India to China, and China did not like that. It's estimated that nearly 10% of the population used opium, and because of that, a lot of the population was severely weakened. After debating whether to legalize the drugs or not, they did not. They knew the harms of addiction. So the emperor at the time sent one of his generals, I can't read Chinese, to Canton to do whatever necessary to end the drug trafficking. And he had a plan. He had opium addicts rounded up and forcibly treated, and then punished drug dealers harshly to discourage their distribution. And well, Britain didn't like this. There's over 20,000 chests of opium were just thrown away. That's over 1,400 tons. So naturally, the British got violent. They destroyed a blockade at the Pearl River, and through more hostilities, they captured Nanjing, which led to the Treaty of Nanjing in 1842, which was so unfair, they called it an unfair treaty. China had to open up several ports and give millions of dollars to Britain, and allow them more trade from basically the entire world. And they were not allowed to stop the opium trade again. It really sucked. So China said, "How about I do anyway?" The Second Opium War was fought under slightly different circumstances. China, at the time, was fighting the Taiping Rebellion. During this rebellion, some Chinese officials went on a British-registered ship and lowered the flag. Britain used this as an opportunity to renew hostilities in an attempt to acquire more trading rights in 1856. Violence escalated pretty quickly, with the Chinese burning British factories in China, and British warships were sent against Chinese cities. The most major change this time around was the French joined Britain's side. The French joined Britain's military expedition. The justification being a French missionary was killed within China earlier that year. After the French and British dealt a particularly devastating blow to Beijing in the Yuanming Garden, the Beijing Convention was signed. China was forced to completely legalize opium and allow people to convince others to believe in Jesus. My argument and review. The way China combated opium was forcing it out of the country and out of people's hands. In spring of 1839, the Chinese government confiscated and threw out 1,400 tons of the drug. This was the only action the Chinese government took. China rounded up and forcibly treated all the opium addicts and harshly punished drug dealers. The Opium Wars changed a lot of things for China. One of the most notable things that happened was the bringing of a Western-style government into the country. Trade ports were open to the entire world, and they became a resource superpower. However, several countries such as England, France, Russia, and Japan started taking slices out of China. The Qing dynasty only persevered about 20 years afterward, falling in the 1910s. Conclusion. In the end, I don't really think the Opium War was particularly stupid, at least on China's part. Although I was looking for a topic less heavy, it is interesting to see how the world has changed since then. Here in the US, some drugs are even legalized, like in some states. It's fascinating how things can change over time. China did well when it came to the war on drugs, but the real problem was people, and it still is. People suck.